Welcome to MyMacDLife, and powered by the Support Sight Foundation. This podcast is about macular degeneration and the devastating impact it has on millions of people and their families every single day, 365 days a year. Our mission is simple: to bring hope, optimism, perspective, and education to our listeners. So tune in, buckle up, and put your listening ears on.
Support for today's MyMacDLife podcast comes from Healthy Vision Association, Novartis, Vispero, Centric Bank, and Hinkelstein & Associates. Hey folks, we've got something special going on today. Well, everything's special, but particularly today. We're bringing our very own David Wolf, our producer, back.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for calling me a producer. I like producing things, especially this podcast. It's really been a delight to work with you, and I'm happy to be here on a little cameo, I guess you might say, right?
Yeah, it's like a little cameo because you know why? We're going to hear from our listeners, and I need your help to open up the mailbag. So you want to do this with me? Let's do it together.
Absolutely. No, I love this, and this will uncover some of the mysteries and the things that our listeners want to know about macular degeneration, right, Dawn?
That's right. And we want to make sure that they keep the questions coming and that we're answering them and helping them. That's the goal.
So where do you think we should start opening up this bag? What pops out at you?
One I hear, or I'm looking at, or I see here from a listener is, where is the macula? Yeah.
I mean, I've heard the word many times from my ophthalmologist when they check me with the bright light, but I don't really know where it is or how it, So let's talk about this.
The beauty of the answers on MyMacDLife is they're in lay terms.
Yeah.
And they're credible, right? We're not going to get all, So the macula is part of the retina. It's actually in the center of the retina. And it's, the retina is light sensitive tissue at the back of the eye. And it instantly converts light or an image into electrical impulses. So that the way to look at the retina is it's like your camera.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
I like the metaphor. That helps, right?
Yeah. And your macula is very, very small, of course. This is all very, very tiny and minutia and mini. And the macula is part of the retina, and the macula's job is fine detail and color.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. That's its job.
And you mentioned changing light into electrical impulses. Is that part of what the macula does? Or did
the
I get
retina
that wrong?
does that.
The retina does that part.
That.
So the macula is about the details.
The fine detail and the color. That's its job, and hence macular degeneration. It means that your macula is not doing its job. So therefore, because it's a central vision disease, you can't see. You see fine detail less and less, and a lot of people eventually can't see color. Some people eventually can't see color, can't see color right away. But anyway, that's the answer. The macula is located in the center of the retina.
Okay.
And its job is color and fine detail.
All right. Very, very good. Thank you.
Got another one there?
All right. Yeah. Let's take a look at the next one. What do you have there?
So here's one. One listener asks, what is Drusen?
Yes. And Drusen is not something it's not a word I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm clueless about this. Great question. Thank you, listener.
Yes. So Drusen is, and I'm quoting this from a very well-renowned researcher, scientist that I know. And one time she described Drusen to me as that yellow gunky stuff. Yellow gunky sticky garbage in your eye. Yeah. So Drusen are deposits that lie beneath the retina, and they lie beneath the retina in a layer called the Bruch's membrane. And we can talk a little bit about that later. But when you have Drusen, it literally is gunky, sticky, yellow, gooey stuff in your retina. And it's a marker for macular degeneration in people 50 years old and above. And when you have Drusen, that's kind of the first sign. Again, it's a marker. And then that tells your ophthalmologist or your retina doctor that there's an increased risk for macular degeneration as the number of those drusen increase.
So it's like a fat accumulation, like a guggy fat like accumulation, and an early marker for potential MacD. Is that a fair way to sum it up?
Yeah, it's a great way to say it. And it really is, kind of backed up waste product from your retina. I know that when we're talking about this on the podcast, people might be envisioning something, but it's backed up waste product.
Does drusen normally drain? It's like our eyes kind of drain when we sleep. And is that the same stuff or no relation to that?
No,
okay.
No, it stays back there. It's, it doesn't.
Oh, so it accumulates. It doesn't drain in any way. Okay.
That's right. Right. And you're not necessarily going to have any symptoms when you have drusen. So one of the things you might want to ask your doctor is, do I have drusen? Do you see drusen in my retina, in the Brooks membrane of my retina? That's a question that those of you who are 50 and older and have macular degeneration in your family history, that's a question you could ask your ophthalmologist next time you go for your appointment.
And I want to ask you, when I'm in my normal ophthalmology appointment, are they checking for drusen routinely? Is that a part of what they do when they're looking and measuring? And is it because it's asymptomatic? So is it something they see visually from looking at my eyes, or how does that work?
Yeah, they do see it. It shows up, in an OCT, the like the X-ray of your eye, so to speak.
Okay.
And as they look, but it shows up there. So, there's no way to treat drusen, but they monitor it and they can see it. So I've had some folks tell me that their eye doctor doesn't even mention that they have it. So, make sure you ask about it.
Wow.
Like, take charge of your own eye health and ask.
Yeah, be your own advocate when you're sitting in the chair. And if you don't know, like that question I just asked, no one has ever mentioned the concept or the idea of drusen to me at all.
Yeah, there you go.
In 61 years. Well,
there you go. You want to spell it for everybody, David?
Yes, it's Drusen. That's how you spell it. And it's Drusen, right? With a Z sound?
That's right, Drusen.
All right, cool. Drusen.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Don. That's great. I was curious about this wet and dry AMD. Do you want to elaborate on that? Is that a good place to go next?
Yeah, I think so. And that's we have a couple people that asked about that, right?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. I saw it come up a little bit. So it sort of, and I saw that question. It's like, I didn't really realize there was more than one kind of AMD. So
yeah, well, it's actually so dry. Okay, dry AMD or MacD, as we call it, dry MacD. 80 to 85% of people have. Okay, and dry macular degeneration is more prevalent, and you do not necessarily go from dry to wet, not necessarily. Okay. And you can have dry in one eye and wet in the other, or you can have dry in both eyes, or you can have wet in both eyes. Okay. So that's, I want to let that sink into our audience. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, dry AMD it can be advanced. It definitely causes vision loss. Okay. And even in the early stages. Okay. And some people describe their dry MacD as Swiss cheese.
In terms of the way it looks visually to them?
That's right. It's like looking through Swiss cheese because there's, again, central vision. It blocks your central vision. It's been described to me like that. I don't know if our folks who are listening out there can relate to that or not. Probably some of them can.
Yeah.
So dry does not have the leaky blood vessels. Okay.
And that's why it's called dry, Dawn? I mean,
that's right.
Is that
right.
simple? Okay.
That's right. It's that simple.
All right.
And you absolutely, I'm a real advocate, and I want people to hear this out there, whether your loved one, you're a caregiver, your loved one has macular degeneration, make sure that you ask your retina doc or your ophthalmologist if you have dry or wet. Okay. And that you actually know that, and tell your family that, because right now there's no cure or no treatment for dry macular degeneration, but there are things on the horizon. And we'll talk about that in another episode.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay.
So wet macular degeneration is when there are abnormal blood vessels underneath the retina and they leak blood or fluid, and that it causes that portion of the blood of the retina to bulge. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So the bulging is a secondary, the effect of these leaky vessels.
That's right. And this bulging of the retina distorts your vision even more.
Mm-hmm.
And there's oftentimes a sudden decrease in central vision.
Wow.
And, there are treatments out there. That's what's out there to treat people.
Oh.
Those are the injections that people get. When people get injections in their eye for their MacD, they have wet macular degeneration.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of settles down the leaky vessels. Is that what the injections do?
Well,
or something different?
They slow the progression of the disease. They slow down or stop the leakage. They slow down the progression. Now, for some people, that unfortunately that might not work. The treatments may not work, but for the vast majority of people who have wet, the treatments that are out on the market right now do work. They're anti-VEGF. They're through injection on a regular basis, and they do slow down the progression of the disease and stop the leakage.
There was a sub question that someone asked about, is one more prevalent than the other? I think you kind of hit on the fact that these can happen in different combinations eye-wise. In other words, it doesn't mean you'll have both in both eyes, or, there are combinations you can encounter, but does one seem to come up more often in others across the population of those that have MacD?
Only 10 to 15% of people who suffer from macular degeneration have wet.
Wet, okay.
Mm-hmm. 80 to 85% have dry.
All right, cool. All right, good. That helps. All right.
Yeah, good question.
Thanks for that question. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, folks, for that.
Well, I saw this one come up, and it's sort of basic, but how do you know you have MacD? I mean, how does it first show up as a human? Is it's a visual thing, or is there pain, or So I think they're asking, how do I know I have it? And then I'm adding, is it pain or visual?
Well, I think of course the surest way to know you have it is to get an exam by an ophthalmologist or a retina specialist. Okay, in order to determine if you have it. It's more difficult for your optometrist to know. I mean, again, it depends on where you live, who your eye doctor is. There's 4 different eye doctors, let's say, that are involved. But the experts that are really focused on the health of your eyes are the ophthalmologist. The optometrist is focused on your vision and also your health of your eye. But the ophthalmologist and the retina doc are the ones that really take care of the health of your eye. Okay. And that's how you know if you have it, is an exam by them. They may see Drusen, which is the beginning. It's a marker.
The marker.
As we said, right?
Yep. And
they're going to be able to tell you whether you have a stage of macular degeneration. And also it is genetic, but there are people who get macular degeneration, they get the disease, and it is not in their family, or at least they weren't aware of the fact that it was in their family, or the previous family members did not know they had it, because we've only really known a lot about it since for 40 years or so. Yeah. So that's how you know.
That's how you know. And one follow-up, because it sounds to me that it's generally asymptomatic in its earliest stages, and the best way to find out is to ask your ophthalmologist and make appointments and have regular checkups with an ophthalmologist.
That's right. And if it's in your family, age 50 and above, if it's in your family, go to an ophthalmologist every year and let them know that you have it in your family.
If you're below 50, this isn't one of the listener questions, it's my question. If you're less than 50, how often should you see an ophthalmologist, do you think? Is there an answer to that, or is it very personal?
There's 600 diseases of the eye.
Oy. Right.
So, so there's, it's not
you want to keep an eye on things.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Good. What else you got? Let's see what else is in the bag here.
Oh, okay. This is one we get on a regular basis. And again, just the disclaimer, I'm not a doctor and neither is David. Okay. But we know a lot. Will removing a cataract improve my vision with AMD MacD? And what we say is that only an ophthalmologist can advise you about your particular and unique condition.
Okay.
Okay. That's the bottom line. Everybody's different. Ask your ophthalmologist.
Mm-hmm. So cataracts they can be related. Is that a sort of a subset to that question?
Well,
or is it it's a separate eye disease?
It's a separate condition. It's a separate instance. Okay.
Okay. That's good. I like that.
And it's, cataracts are so common.
Right.
Because macular degeneration is primarily age related. So many people suffer from both cataracts and macular degeneration, but they are two separate incidences. You need to talk to your doctor about it, your eye doctor. What else we have? Shuffle through those a little bit.
So, this really gets into, I think, the world I know you know so much about, and that is managing it, or i.e. living with this. Listener asks, how can AMD be managed? So, how do you manage the disease once you know you have it and you have symptoms?
This is a good one. Actually, we should put this on the website too. I think all these questions are awesome. So I have a checklist. So hopefully people who are tuning in can, maybe if you're in a spot where you might want to write this down or listen to this part again. Mm-hmm. So number one, like we said, regular eye exams by your ophthalmologist or your retina specialist. Regular. Okay. Number two, Amsler Grid. If you do not have an Amsler Grid and you have macular degeneration, you need one. Ooh. It's like that combination is like salt and pepper. You need both.
Can I ask the basic question? What is an Amsler Grid?
Sure. Amsler Grid. And by the way, you can go to MyMacDLife.org or supportsite.org and find one and download one.
Okay.
Or AMDcentral.org and download one if you don't have one from your eye doctor. Okay. But an Amsler Grid is really very primitive, but it works like a charm. It works perfectly. It's a grid of lines. Okay. And it's on white paper, black lines. It's a grid of lines. And what it does is it can reveal signs of macular degeneration, like blurry areas, like the lines start to get wavy when you look at it, or blank spots. And any changes that when you use the Amsler Grid, any changes that you notice, contact your eye doctor right away. And here's the thing I want to add to that. And not a lot of people will tell you this, but I've been saying this for years. When you use your Amsler Grid, use it the same time every day, because you don't see with your eyes, you see with your brain. Okay. So here's my recommendation, strong recommendation. When you get up in the morning, you start your morning routine. We all have one, right, David?
Yes, I do. I have a very consistent morning routine.
There you go.
Absolutely.
That's why consistency is important here. That's why I suggest the morning. Wake up. Make sure you're awake, that you're already engaged. You've had your cup of coffee or your tea. Mm-hmm. And your juice or whatever, your piece of toast. Mm-hmm. And you go to your same spot that you go to every morning as you're waking up and starting to begin your wonderful day. Mm-hmm. And, make sure there's a lot of light, natural light in the room.
Okay. Natural light. You said natural
light's better.
Okay.
Right. But light anyway. Okay. And again, sit in the same spot, do your same routine. Mm-hmm. So you put the Amsler Grid in front of you, and oftentimes people have a paper version, or some people have it on a refrigerator magnet or something like that.
Question, can you use it on a screen, or is it better to have paper?
Better to have non-screen.
Right. I'm thinking because it's pixels and it's an electronic representation of an image. Okay, cool.
Right. Better.
Back to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And plus, it's easy. So you hold it, nose in front of your nose, nose height. Mm-hmm. Okay. And kind of like you're singing in a choir, maybe music, maybe a little closer.
Yep.
You cover one eye with one hand and you look at it.
Okay.
Okay. And give your brain time to register it.
Okay. So take
Okay.
your time with this.
That's right.
Okay.
And then put it down. Okay. Cover the other eye, bring it back up, and look at it again. So you're using one eye at a time. Okay.
Yeah.
Because for many people with MacD, they may have, like we said before, they may have wet on one eye, dry on the other, but there's something different going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the minute you see the lines changing, because the lines on that Amsler grid are straight. The minute you see lines changing where there's block spots or there's waviness, anything, or there's a crookedness, and
yeah.
And if you see that more than a day or two in a row, then you definitely need to call your doctor right away. That means something's happening, something's changing.
Okay.
And that's the only way you know.
Wow. You triggered something as you were answering this question, Dawn. I'm guessing that wet and dry have different kinds of symptoms visually. Is that a true statement? Or
yeah, absolutely.
It's going to affect you differently.
And everybody sees things differently. It's very individualized.
Right. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. I was curious about that. Let's see. All right. Well, wow.
And so the next thing on the list is, and let's go back to that. How can AMD be managed? Because we kind of got involved in that Amsler Grid.
Yeah, we did.
Which is really important. So, people, if you've been diagnosed with MacD, you really need to monitor your vision on a daily basis. And that's what I was talking about with that Amsler Grid. Do that every day. Some people say to me, well, nobody told me I need to do it every day. I do it once in a while. I mean, it's on my fridge. No, every day. It's part of your regimen. It's part of your routine.
Yep. And it's a systematic approach, regularity of checking, so that you can find a trend, because you're taking a sample every day of how your vision is doing, right?
That's right. And by the way, some days you might not feel as well. Many of our listeners are dealing with other health issues.
Yes.
Arthritis or heart issues or what have you.
Sure.
And so, so if you're not feeling well one day and the Amsler Grid, you notice a little change. Maybe it's because you don't feel well. Maybe you're not, you're a little foggy, fuzzy, whatever. Yeah. But then if that continues, into the next day or two, then with the Amsler Grid, could be a big deal.
Okay.
And then the fourth thing in terms of how your MacD can be managed is that you're living with it. I mean, that's the purpose of our podcast, living life with macular degeneration.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're living with it. So use low vision, technology, use low vision aids to help you with your daily tasks. Use electronic magnifier, use a desktop reader, look into the idea of what's called a wearable so that you can function. Use proper lighting in your kitchen. Use contrast in your dishes, contrast in your daily tasks. We have a lot of information on that on the website.
Excellent.
But those are my kind of how can AMD be managed? And that in and of itself is like the best question that we could go on and on about, and we'll break it up into different episodes. We always talk about that.
Excellent. No, thank you. Boy, this is really enlightening. I'm just learning so much about the disease from our listener questions. This is fabulous. Great feedback.
I know. I love that they're reaching out to us and wanting to know things. It's good, right?
Yep. You're doing a great job of delivering a program that is truly helping people and activating and arousing their curiosity about their own, perhaps their own illness or the illness that they know one of their loved ones is experiencing. This disease, MacD. So great stuff.
Thanks for joining me today to help me get through this mailbag. Because when I opened it up, I'm like, who's the best person that I could get to help me with this? And I thought of you.
Thank you for
David.
Thinking of me. It's always a delight to spend time with you, whether it's on mic, off mic, or elsewhere. So thanks so much, Dawn. And thanks everyone for listening and for your questions. Please continue to send them in, and we'll address them as we can.
That's right. So send in all your questions, no matter what they are. We'll get to them. And it's MyMacDLife.org. Or you can also reach out to supportsite.org, because MyMacDLife is empowered by the Support Site Foundation. Thank you so much, listeners.
Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next time. The information in this podcast does not provide and is not a replacement for professional medical evaluation, advice, diagnosis, or treatment. We make no guarantee or representation about the accuracy or completeness of this information.
This program is empowered by the Support Sight Foundation. The Support Sight Foundation mission is to save sight for millions of people who suffer from age-related macular degeneration, AMD. As a 501c3 public charity, our goal is to provide patient education and access to low vision resources to help individuals, families, and caregivers whose lives are severely impacted by AMD. The Support Sight Foundation funds innovative research projects to discover effective new tools, technology, and treatments. The Support Sight Foundation, supportsight.org, supportsight.org, or call us at 888-681-8773 and connect with us on social media. Thank you.
Thanks for being with us on MyMacDLife, the podcast with a vision to bring hope, optimism, perspective, and education to our listeners. For more information and many great, incredible resources, visit MyMacDLife.org. This program is supported by amazing listeners like you. Please consider a donation to keep our mission moving forward. Remember to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, keep living with hope.
MyMacDLife. MyMacDLife.